This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation news from around the nation. This week, critical fisheries reform legislation advances in North Carolina. That's our lead story. Conner Barker joins us momentarily. CSF-supported habitat project moves forward in Virginia. Hawaii GMA hunt, a conservation opportunity. Some good news in the Green Mountain State, a look back at Vermont's 2025 legislative session. Crossbows normalized and added to full archery season in New York. And finally, free fishing weekends provide a great opportunity to get outside. All of that and much, much more. Before we get to Conner, I want to thank our sponsors, Bass Pro Shops, Richard Childress Racing, and the Kinetic Group for the week of June 23rd, 2025. Thank you for your support. With that, let us welcome in now Conner Barker. Conner, we got House Bill 442. We're talking shrimping. What's going on in North Carolina?
Yeah, Fred, got a lot going on in North Carolina. It's been a busy session. This is a long session for North Carolina, so typically a lot more happens. They are getting down to the wire. Probably going to head on summer vacation for a couple months after this week, but not before they have to decide on what to do with House Bill 442, which, as the title implies in our TSV articles, critical fisheries reform bill. It's something that's frankly, has been a long time coming in North Carolina. What the bill does, to lead with that, it would prohibit the take of shrimp using a trawl net in any coastal fishing waters other than areas of the Atlantic Ocean located more than 1/2 mile from the shoreline. And there's several other things in there as well, but that's what we're really focused on here. So in short, what that does is it would prohibit inshore shrimp trawling. Primarily, it would prohibit inshore shrimp trawling, apologies, in sounds and estuaries. And if you're familiar with North Carolina, the Pamlico Sound is a huge, huge marine habitat there. North Carolina's estuaries and sounds are among the most diverse and productive marine resources in North America. You don't have to be, a marine biologist or anything like that to understand that the habitat that these sounds and estuaries provide, especially critical nursery habitat for species like flounder, spots, croaker, etc. Many of those, especially flounder, being a big game fish, something that people pursue all up and down the East Coast, are negatively impacted by any damage that may be done to these sounds and estuaries. And kind of a two-part story here, or two-part issue that we're dealing with is one, shrimp trawling in inshore waters like that has a lot of bycatch. And, bycatch is what's caught other than what you're targeting, right? So in this case, obviously, shrimp trawlers are targeting shrimp, but inadvertently, they catch a lot of juvenile fish species of what I just mentioned. And unlike, maybe your smaller recreational boat, these big shrimp trawlers leave those nets down in the water for quite a while, dragging for shrimp, and ultimately ends up killing a lot of these juvenile species. So this is a known source of mortality for some of these critical species. Then on the other hand, dragging the bottom for shrimp and these sounds and estuaries rakes over the bottom of these sounds and estuaries and destroys habitat, and that is no known secret. And then that's kind of what the two-part issue is there. But to give a little bit more background on North Carolina, North Carolina is the only southeastern state, both on the Atlantic side and the Gulf, still allows shrimp trawling in its sounds and estuaries. Other states, you can't do it in Virginia to the north, and you can't do it in South Carolina to the south, and that's true all the way down to Florida and around into the Gulf. So it's not like North Carolina's unique in doing this. They're really just getting on board with what's already being done in other states, kind of to protect these valuable marine resources as well. And we've seen the consequences in some of North Carolina's fisheries, saltwater fisheries over the years. But yeah, this is a bill that popped up. There's an amendment to the House bill, sorry, that had already cleared the House and was in the Senate last week, middle of last week, and since then has now cleared the Senate with just a handful of dissenting votes and goes back to the House for concurrence this week. We're expecting that vote probably to be, or if it's going to be voted on, if either to be probably tomorrow, be June 24th. So hopefully by this week we'll have a better idea where this goes next, if at all.
So a lot to unpack there, Connor. Gosh, where to start? So obviously, from an ecosystem cause and effect here, years of dredging has a negative effect on the environment there, and like you said, the bycatch and all that. What got us to this point to make this change? You referenced Virginia, South Carolina, Gulf states have all gone and made this change, assuming this is for the benefit of the local ecosystems, preventing bycatch of these nursery areas. What got us to this point in North Carolina?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of factors leading up to it. One of them being, like I said already, that and like you just mentioned, is North Carolina is really just getting on board with what other southeastern states are already doing. And again, this isn't a ban on shrimp trawling by any means. It just said you can't do it within a half mile of the shore or in inshore waters. Um, but and then I'll give you another specific example. And this is something we reported on TSV probably been about a month ago now. And if you go on the North Carolina page there in our media room, you'll be able to find this article. North Carolina, for the first time in some time, had to close their recreational flounder season last
Yeah,
year,
that's right.
and that was a big deal. They closed it and they eventually opened it by proclamation in joint waters. But either way, they did not have what would be considered a traditional recreational flounder season last year. And if you've ever vacation, whether you live at the beach, whether that's in all the way up in the Northeast or down to Florida, flounder are a common species that are pursued, and that's a part of a lot of people's lives, and it's part of how they get outside and how they enjoy recreational saltwater fishing. So those were not you couldn't pursue those. You couldn't keep those in North Carolina last year at any point due to season being closed. And I can't say that if this shrimp trawl ban goes into effect that we can guarantee a flounder season by any means. But it certainly cannot hurt, and I think it's would be a right step in the right direction and correcting some of these depleted fisheries like we've seen in flounder in some cases.
What has been the recreational fishing reaction, community reaction to this bill?
Yeah, it's been pretty widespread support as far as recreational fishing is concerned. A lot of our big partners in the state have issued their own action alerts. CSF did that today. Encourage you to go check that out if you're a North Carolina resident. Um, give it a click. It went out this afternoon, June 23rd. And but yeah, the recreationals, their support have pretty much been unanimously in support of it. For they want to preserve and or conserve these valued resources for generations to come, right? And it starts right here with what is, like I said, has been something that's been in the works for years now in North Carolina.
Very good. As often these things take time, but it's great to get them over the finish line and appreciate that hard work. So, yeah, good. And it looks like there's a net positive all around for this. Um, ecosystem wise, making sure that you're perpetuating the propagation of the species there without them getting caught up and all that. So, yeah, great work, great reporting. And obviously, we'll look forward to a follow up here and making it official.
Yep. Yeah, sure thing. And like I said, we've been thanks to a lot of folks in North Carolina. This is kind of a reality. It could be a reality after this week. So lot of hard work and years of conversation went into it, and hopefully that will pay off in years to come.
Very good. Connor, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, Brad.
All right, my thanks to Connor for his reporting, and obviously look forward to a positive follow up there. At this time, as I always do, I do ask you guys to, you could take your phones out if you haven't done it by now and hit that subscribe or follow, depending on the platform you're listening to, iTunes, Spotify. You're able to subscribe or follow. There's also a 5-star rating there. So if you don't mind, take the 2 seconds, hit those 5 stars, helps us out. And then you could do the same thing on iHeart Radio app, great podcasting app there. So wherever you're listening to, if you can, we appreciate it. It helps us become discoverable and new audiences find us and the value in this program. So thank you as always. Continuing on, we're going to head to Virginia. This from John Colclaser. CSF supported habitat project moves forward in Virginia. The timber harvest, prescribed burns, and other vegetation treatments in the Archer Knob project will help correct the age class imbalance on the George Washington National Forest, supporting species important to Virginia hunters, including ruffed grouse, wild turkey, black bear, and white-tailed deer. The project is also a positive indicator of the U.S. Forest Service that is embracing its new National Active Forest Management Strategy. You can read that there by going to the actual article on congressionalsportsman.org and using the in article link. Highlights here: early successional habitats, which are critical to game species, as well as several species of greatest conservation need identified in the Virginia Wildlife Action Plan, comprise of less than 1% of the George Washington National Forest. In 2022, CSF submitted comments on the draft environmental assessment for the Archer Knob project, supporting the proposed timber harvest and other improvements for fish and wildlife habitat. CSF is a strong proponent of using active forest management practices to improve forest health, increase forest resilience to severe wildfire, improve wildlife habitat, and increase access for hunters and anglers. On June 18th, the U.S. Forest Service released the decision notice for the Archer Knob project on the North River Ranger District of the George Washington National Forest in Virginia. District Ranger Greg Slezak decided to implement the proposed action in the final environmental assessment, which will move the analysis area toward the desired conditions to increase forest resilience as set forth in the 2014 George Washington Revised Land and Resource Management Plan. The action aims to create early successional habitat and open woodlands, among other species composition and structure improvements that are beneficial to wildlife. After reviewing the EA, District Ranger Slezak determined that the proposed action would not have a significant environmental effect, and thus the environmental impact statement was not needed. This finding of no significant impact was issued following public input during the initial scoping period, the EA scoping period, and 2 objection periods. During these stages, public feedback was evaluated and some recommendations were incorporated into the final EA. Even without carrying out the full-blown EIS, the almost 4 years of analysis to reach the final decision demonstrates the need for reforms as proposed by the Fix Our Forest Act to increase efficiencies to support forest restoration work at scale. Specifically, the Archer Knob project will harvest timber on 2,142 acres through regeneration methods that will create early successional and young forest habitat, then 2,600 acres to create open woodlands, and enhance just over 400 acres of various types of wildlife openings, prescribe burn over 2,400 acres, and restore 10 aquatic organism passages, among other forest and watershed health improvements. By improving habitat diversity, the project will support game and non-game species that depend on regenerating young forest and other early habitats. CSF is appreciative of the proactive work of the U.S. Forest Service and is excited to see the project move forward to improve wildlife habitat and support the outdoor sporting traditions of sportsmen and women in the Commonwealth. Let's go to Hawaii. The 2025 Game Management Area hunting season empowers sportsmen and women to manage invasive species while protecting native ecosystems and providing sporting opportunity. By targeting feral species, hunters support the critically endangered Palilla, aligning with conservation goals. I'm gonna come right out to the audience. I mean, no disrespect on some of the Hawaiian local linguistics here. I'm giving it my best. The GMA hunting season runs July 3rd through August 31st of this year for muzzleloaders or shotguns to aid in the population management of feral pigs, a limit of 4 daily, sheep and goats, which have no limit. Planned management operations from August 27th to the 28th will temporarily close the GMA to hunting as the department works to reduce mammal impacts on Palila habitat. CSF strongly supports utilizing hunting as a preferred management tool, overall conservation, population management, and habitat protection. Nestled on Mauna Kea's west slope in Hawaii's Kauai Game Management Area, the popular destination for hunting, hiking, and bird watching, this GMA will be opening for game mammal hunting from, as I said, the 3rd of July through August 31st, offering sportsmen and women the opportunity to aid in conservation. These management hunts target feral goats, pigs, and sheep, which threaten the native vegetation essential for the Palila's survival. Generous bag limits of sheep and goat facilitate population reduction at the levels needed to support conservation of this critical habitat. CSF emphasizes hunting as a cost-effective science-based tool for managing overpopulations of species, and Kauai's season exemplifies this approach, blending recreational opportunity with ecosystem restoration. Participating sportsmen and women embody CSS vision for hunter and conservation stewards and vital partners in the protection of the Endangered Species Act listed species. This upcoming hunting season and Kauai mitigates ecological damage from invasive wildlife, generates economic benefits through licensing and local spending while maintaining traditions of responsible harvest, making it a sustainable alternative to costly professional control, ensuring native species like the Palela thrive while enriching Hawaii's outdoor opportunities. Heading northeast to Vermont, this from yours truly. Just kind of looking back here at the session reported last week about SB 61 that had reached the governor's desk, and that has been signed. So a good deal there. Acknowledging that we have more bad bills than good in recent sessions. It's just a sign of the times. But this reporting here is letting you know that a lot of the bad was defeated. So that's great. That's a win in of itself. But, leading off with Senator Brennan, who's also the vice president of the National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucuses, worked real hard on this. And what it does, for those that didn't tune in, is it eliminates existing prohibitions on switchblade knives with a blade of 3 inches or more, allowing the citizens of Vermont to utilize common tools. Our Governor Sportsman's Caucus member, Governor Phil Scott, did sign that into law, so that is a done deal. Other bills of concern that were defeated: House Bill 132, protecting Vermont sportsmen and women as they will be able to continue utilization of bait for fur bearers as an effective means of management while lawfully utilizing firearms, archery, and equipment. That bill sought to not allow those implements plus baiting for fur bearers. So with that, Vermont sportsmen and visiting sportsmen can continue on as per normal. House Bill 381 would have banned gas-operated semi-auto firearms. I think I've covered this in the past, but this is a new clever tactic of the anti-gun lobby, playing semantics to make commonly used operating systems sound scarier than they really are. And it seems like semi-automatic has become white noise as it's been beat to death. So now we're going to call them gas-operated semi-auto. So cheap tricks that are often just very shallow as much of the anti-gun side of the house is. There's not much there, and those arguments are easily defeated once you get into the meat and potatoes of them. So that didn't go anywhere. So again, your standard gas operated uh, firearms system are still good to go. Vermont Vermont House Bill 392 would have prohibited firearms on some state lands for recreational shooting and hunting. If passed, it would have closed off 168,000 acres of state land. Not good. Hard pass on that. That bill did not advance, so no issues there going forward. Another win that we can discuss is, again, Senator Pat Brennan championed and secured a joint resolution celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Sport Fish Restoration Program. So that was a positive coming out of both chambers, and we appreciate Senator Brennan's efforts on that as well. And that's really going to wrap it up in Vermont. Again, somewhat quiet, but the bad stuff didn't advance, and the good stuff did. So we're appreciative of it. That doesn't mean we're going to rest on our laurels. 2026 will definitely be busier, and things that didn't make it this year sure to come back in some variation. May not be exactly, but there is an anti-sporting sentiment growing in the Green Mountain State, which is unfortunate because Vermont was the first state to have the right to hunt, fish, and trap in their constitution dating back to the 1700s. And that seems a bit ironic that this is, where we're at. But we have good in-state partners. We have a really strong leadership in Senator Brennan and other co-chairs in our Vermont Sportsman's Caucus in Montpelier. So the fight will continue, and we'll report on it when necessary. Good news out of New York. Don't often get to say that. Crossbows normalized and added to full archery season in New York. This is a long time coming. The reporting comes from Christian Ragosta. On Tuesday, June 17th, on the last day of their extended session, the New York Assembly passed New York Assembly Bill 8330 and Senate Bill 6360, which will normalize crossbows. Once the governor signs the legislation, crossbows will be permitted during the full archery season, and onerous size requirements of width and maximum peak draw weight will be removed from the New York statute. CSF has been in the fight advocating for crossbow inclusion for over 15 years. CSF worked directly with legislators to support Assembly Bill 8330 and Senate Bill 6360. Legislation to normalize crossbows and include them in the full archery season has been attempted for over 2 decades. Crossbows were first permitted in 2014 by adding compromise language into the New York executive budget to authorize their use for only 2 weeks of the archery season during the muzzleloader season, both requiring the muzzleloader privilege. This victory was a result of CSF working with the New York Legislative Sportsman's Caucus and the New York Sportsman's Advisory Council, NYSAC. As we said, CSF has been on the front lines of including crossbows in hunting since before the original language in 2014 was adopted. For over a decade, CSF has been working with lawmakers, NYSAC, and other sportsmen's organizations and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to normalize crossbows. New York will be added to the growing list of states that permit the unrestricted use of crossbows during archery season. When crossbows were first approved in New York, they were only permitted to hunt, as I said, during the muzzleloader season in the last 2 weeks and had to have that muzzleloader stamp. Since then, crossbow technology has accelerated quickly, and the dated language in the statute has made many modern-day crossbows illegal for hunting in New York. Once the governor signs the legislation, the requirements that will be removed include the use of a bolt with a minimum length of 14 inches, a minimum limb width of 17 inches, and a minimum length of 24 inches, and the maximum peak draw weight of 200 pounds. Most notably, of the size requirements is minimum limb width, as modern crossbows have developed to be significantly narrower. By allowing more opportunities to use crossbows and removing the size requirements of crossbows, hunters will be contributing more to the American system of conservation funding when buying new archery equipment. The state agency will benefit with the addition of wildlife management tool and more conservation funding through the ASCF. For years, due to state politics, legislators have attempted to advance crossbow inclusion into the archery season by numerous methods, such as specifying use for senior citizens or those who have medical necessity that would um, impede their use of different longbows, up and down tackle. This hallmark legislation will permit all licensed hunters to use crossbows during the archery season. The original language from the 2014 executive budget permitted crossbows hunting during the muzzleloader season and the last 2 weeks of bow season. CSF would like to thank the leadership in the New York Legislative Sportsman's Caucus, Senator Hinchy, Senator Griffo, and Assemblyman Smullen, as well as two sponsors of the legislation, Senator Harkman and Assemblywoman Warner. CSF would also like to acknowledge the decades and dedicated members of NISAC who have been advocating along CSF for this important change since the council was formed by CSF in 2012. CSF encourages Governor Hochul to sign this important legislation into law as soon as possible to make crossbows available for the full archery season this fall. Yeah, that's great. And again, this is going back to Connor's deal there in North Carolina, the shrimp. Some of these things are just, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the system and the fight takes a number of years. And golly days, what a payoff! The crossbows, the shrimp, knife rights in Vermont. I mean, these are some slogs, and we continue to work with our leadership and our caucus to deliver results and deliver wins for our sporting community. And boom, three examples in one show right there. So that's awesome. Lastly, free fishing weekends provide a great opportunity to get outside. This from Jake Gould. We got a whole lot of free fishing days coming up, so do take advantage of them. But we'll get into the highlights here from Jake. Angler recruitment, retention, and reactivation efforts are focused on increasing angling participation and protecting traditions and the vital conservation funding that the angling community generates. Free fishing weekends hosted by state fish and wildlife agencies throughout the country offer great opportunity for new anglers to experience fishing without commitment of buying a year-long license. Allowing individuals to experience fishing without first having to buy a license eliminates a perceived barrier for entry, potentially helping to recruit lifelong anglers as a result. With schools out for the summer, many hunting seasons now closed, fishing is a great way to get people outdoors and participating in our time-honored traditions. Many state fish and wildlife agencies will offer the free fishing weekends coming up, often earlier this month as well through 4th of July. Fishing often is the lowest barrier to entry, since fishing licenses often cost less than a hunting license, and the gear is easy to come by and not so cost prohibitive. While offering free fishing weekends is a great way to introduce new people to fishing, state fish and wildlife agencies continue to provide opportunities like this to ensure new anglers become lifetime anglers. Angling is also imperative to the success of the American system of conservation funding. It relies on, in part, the sale of fishing licenses as well as the federal excise taxes on fishing-related items through the Dingell-Johnson-Wallop-Brough Act to support state-based conservation efforts. The long-term increase in participation that these free fishing weekends may lead to will ultimately support the American system of conservation funding, which allows state fish and wildlife agencies to continue their efforts to improve public fishing areas. For more information on these free weekends in your state, you can visit your state fish and wildlife agency website. There's a whole bunch of them, and folks are encouraged to get out there and take advantage of that. And I would argue, older people, so many states. I mean, I'll speak for where I'm at, but I think a lot of them, it's like 16 and under, or some teenage years and under are free anyway. So yeah, we want to bring the kids out and that's fun. But like for you older teenagers, kids in college, emergent anglers, if you will, like emergent hunters, like take advantage of it. Go check it out. I know in the northern tier states, they offer free ice fishing days too. So, up here twice a year, you get to try 2 different flavors of fishing recreationally. And that's pretty awesome. So hopefully the weather is good and not oppressive heat like we're getting here in the Northeast and up and down the East Coast this week. But yeah, take advantage of it. All right, that's our show this week. Quick one. So thanks for hanging with us. Little housekeeping. Next week, we do have a full feature episode. This is our Q2 policy update. So you will hear from our directors of federal policy, Taylor Schmitz, Chris Horton, as you all know, director of fisheries policy, and John Colclaser, senior director of forestry policy, giving you an update where some things are on the Hill across the country. And you can tune in for that next Thursday. No Roundup next Wednesday. As we're gearing up for the 4th of July holiday, we start looking towards our 250th birthday of the greatest nation on the face of the planet. And quite frankly, we need some celebrating to happen and some good times to be had with the craziness that is going on in the world right now with our sporting community and then all the rest of it. And then point of focus too on that Q2 update. Last week we touched on it in the update with the land sell off in the West. This is, really taking a lot of the attention in the sporting community right now, and rightfully so. I do encourage you to go read the article from Taylor. Go check out the TSV Roundup episode last week where Taylor and I talk more about this. You'll hear it on the Q2 update as well. We get into that where nothing has happened officially on that. We're still looking at 2 to 3 million acres possibly being sold off. So time will tell. And definitely when we get updates, Taylor will report back. But anyway, look forward to the Q2 policy update from our leaders there on the Hill. And we'll leave you with that. I hope you all have a great 4th of July. Enjoy time safely out in the wild places, water, woods, wherever you're at. Enjoy it with your family and celebrate this great nation. These things all go together appropriately. So we will see you on the 11th for another weekly episode of news, what's happening around the country, and we'll leave it there. Thanks for tuning in as always. CSF is your inside connection to outdoor legislation. Until next Thursday, we'll see you. So long. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.